Are you curious about the history and stories of West Coast hip hop? Well, here it is.
At that time, it wasn't natural to be going out doing corporate type work. People looked at us as sellouts if we was doing that back then. Like, man, you can't be doing that commercial stuff, man. That's a sellout. You know what I'm saying? You don't, like, man, oh man, you giving in, you selling out, doing all this commercial work, putting your work on clothes and movies. And sometimes we were, certain writers would try to hide that, like, 'cause they didn't want to be called a sellout. So we would try to do it low key and get paid, you know.
While still at LA Trade Tech College, Cre8 secured an agent and booked gigs doing art design for corporations and other companies. However, he still struggled with whether doing graffiti art for commercial use was selling out. Cre8 wasn't the only style writer who had this challenge. In Joe Austin's 2001 book, Taking the Train, How Graffiti Art Became an Urban Crisis in New York City, he writes about how pioneering graffiti writers at that time struggled with this as well. In New York in the early 1980s, art was growing in popularity alongside the development of style writing. Many early style writers like Futura 2000 and Quick crossed paths with fine artists like Jean-Michel Basquiat and Keith Haring, who would all be put in the same category. In these newly developing artist circles, style writers were encouraged to paint on canvases and turn their art into a sellable product. Art galleries couldn't sell art pieces that were painted on trains and public walls. Art collectors and those who were new to seeing style writing wanted to consume it as they would traditional art, and they were willing to pay money for it. However, teen style writers were inexperienced in negotiating the worth of their work with professional art dealers. This would often lead to exploitation and frustration with knowing what to charge. In Taking the Train, Austin writes about the artist collective UGA, also known as United Graffiti Artists, which was made up of pioneering style writers in New York who turned down money for their work. Quote, in 1984, as part of a discussion about whether it is possible to make art for gallery sales and still maintain integrity, Coco 144 mentioned that Burlington Industries had offered UGA $150,000 to design rugs in the 1970s and turned it down. UGA had been through the gallery encounter in the early and mid 1970s. As the first writers to enter the art scene, it had come away feeling ambivalent. Some felt there was a possible place for writing that was non-exploitive, but that non-exploitive place was not visible in the early 1980s scene. Since painting illegally in public spaces was an act of resistance and defiance, which is why it was underground, many writers fought against commercial fame and success. Some writers like Cre8 tried juggling a few options. He continued painting in graffiti-designated spaces called yards, while also doing commercial work and working a traditional job.
Yeah, at that time, even though it was considered being like a sellout or playing into the wrong hands of the corporate world, if whoever did do it, they did it low key. Some people didn't care. They thought that it was a benefit, it was an opportunity to take them to another level. I was playing both sides of the fence. That sounds a little weird, but that was the truth, because I was always into making money. So for me to do it, I loved it, but then I didn't want to have my peers looking at me as like, oh, this dude's a trip. So it was crazy. Now, when I graduated from Trade Tech, while I was at Trade Tech, I actually had a part-time gig at, UPS for a while.
Okay.
And that was weird because everybody was like, oh man, you got you a real good job. You work for UPS. Don't never leave that job. You got benefits. You get paid all the time. Oh man, that's the best job ever. Don't ever leave that job. You'll be a fool if you quit. But I'm saying to people, man, this ain't what I was born to do. I'm an artist. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to wear this, no offense to UPS, but I'm not here to wear this brown uniform. I'm here to man to shine with my talent, my skills, you know. I mean, one time I was on the elevator to go pick up some packages out of a corporate building in downtown, and I was sketching because I was walking with my clipboard and my little thing, and I was working on the layout sketch. Matter of fact, it's the sketch that I actually did for the movie where they rented out my artwork for the Friday After Next movie. I was doing a drawing for that. It wasn't actually for the movie. I was just working on the layout for it. I didn't even know it was down the line it was going to be featured in the movie because they just so happened to want to rent it. But nevertheless, that was the drawing I was doing. And, this guy was on the elevator. He was like, wow, man, what are you doing? I said, man, I'm drawing. He said, let me see. He was blown away by what I was sketching. He said, oh, man, that's good. He said, but you got you a good job at UPS, man. Never let it go. And I'm looking at him like, man, what, you crazy? I'm like, man, I wasn't born for this. I'm just doing this to keep money flowing in my pocket as a young man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't never really want to work a 9 to 5. That wasn't my thing. My thing was always to do what I love to do and make money from it. But, you know, sometimes, now here's the reality of it. When you coming from the hood in the inner city, this ain't no excuse, but it is a factor. When you're a young black man growing up in the hood and you trying to deal with corporate world, sometimes they don't want to deal with us. You know, and I'm not going to front. I had knowledge and wisdom and I knew how to dress and I knew how to be appropriate, but they was still on some other stuff. They wanted to deal with who they felt they was comfortable with. So that's why they looked at the other people representing us at the time.
Okay.
The only thing that gave me that edge was because I was very passionate about what I do. And that me being passionate is what made people really take a second look at me and listen to me because I spoke about it so highly about the art. So when I spoke about it and demonstrated how much I cared about it, they would say, oh, you know what, just let them do it. Give them a couple of $100, you know. Now, mind you, in that process, I had to start learning the value about who I am and what I'm worth. Because I know where I come from. I knew that this art form was the underground art form at once upon a time where nobody even appreciated it. Nobody wanted to see it. So when I start really not being afraid to charge people, they're like, well, how much? I'm like, man, I'm not no kid. I didn't tell them that, but I'm thinking in my mind, I ain't no kid where I'm getting $100 for the burger stand no more. You know, you got to give me thousands at this point because I came a long way and I earned the right to get paid like I weigh. And that was the attitude that I started to carry. Now, that don't say that I ain't never still went low here and there. You know what I'm saying? Keep it real because when you're in business, sometimes your clientele might not, just because you got paid like a couple of grand for one job don't mean you're going to get that for the next and the next. Not to say that couldn't happen, but when you playing both sides of the fence, you dealing with the hood people, then you still dealing with the corporate, you probably going to get more. When you in the hood, you get more opportunity dealing with street people or people that's local because they understand and now they start to see that it's a lovely thing. The people in the corporate world, they like it, but then they don't want to talk to you only because they don't feel like you on their level or they feel like they feel threatened. Because they like, whoa, who's this little young black dude coming along? And this is the reality of what we're faced with, even as grown men now in this game of doing what we do.